Makar in.
Nino Mac.
Hey, Kooper here.
Welcome to the second episode of our Breeding Grounds podcast. It's been a long time since the first one. We'll explain that in just a minute. This week we'll be talking about nicknames, our different policies with that, what we think about the whole thing. Our top 5 is Dragonite counters.
Gastrodon.
And our Saver's Corner clip is going to be pretty fun and entertaining as always. So if you want to fast forward to any of those, we'll have annotations. Anyway, why it's taken so long, we'll let the man who's responsible for that explain.
Alright, I'm sorry about the whole problem of not posting anything. It's not entirely my fault, but 99.9%. Computer technical issues, my operating system drive failed, and because I don't have another drive to put my OS on, couldn't really do anything, so it took me a while to finally get a computer to have access to. Sorry.
And then once Kamon did, Kooper was gone for winter break, but we're back now.
So, with that, let's get it going. Nicknames. I like the Greek gods. I have Hermes, Dionysius, well, once I read it slow, bro, Athena. That's just one of the things I like. I find that they tend to fit better. But recently I've also started forcing those, and that's something that really bothers me, because when I have, like, Hermes on Crobat, it fits so well. That's just such a great name for him. But when I try to get... I can't think of a Hera. It's not going to be Heracross, because it's the goddess of healing. And I can't think of anyone who I want. So, a couple weeks ago, I thought of someone like, alright, well, I guess this spoke's the best fit. And I realized how terrible that was. So, as long as they're not forced, I like the Greek gods or Greek titans like Tethys. I also like any sort of reference like Damus from RuneScape. Historical stuff, Suflakar, Antikythera. But that's just for me. Most people don't really know those. They aren't familiar. Pretty much as long as it's a name and it's relevant, I like it. If it's a pun, okay, maybe, like Scooby Doom. But in general, I like to see it be a name. I like to see it be serious and creative, original. That's the main thing. That's the biggest chance you have to personalize yourself, unless you're like Seaman or Second Coming. So I really think people should take advantage of that.
Yeah, nicknames for me are probably the most important part of Pokemon in general. If we couldn't do nicknames, I probably would not still be playing today. This is going to be on my channel, so I guess you can look in the background and tell what I do. I do Mega Man nicknames. Currently, I do Classic Series, Legends, and Battle Network, and usually I like to do that sort of a theme. Like sometimes I'll be doing just a random playthrough, and I'll do names based on a game. Like, ooh, nice.
There we go.
Like one Platinum file, I had Agrias, and I did Final Fantasy Tactics names, things like that. The White Nuzlocke that I have, I just did kind of normal names, like, Aaron and Sally and Jason and all those awesome guys.
Aaron!
Let's see. So we found this article, which we're going to have linked in the description, that sort of goes over some stereotypes of names, which I kind of liked. And
Yeah, I'm in between a 2 and a 5 on that.
yeah, I gotta say, probably my least favorite of those is the sicko, where can we come up with examples of those?
Dick pinch, right off the top of my head.
Anything relating to the male phallus type thing, especially when it gets into the stealth rock and pointed stones dig into it. Yeah, that's nasty.
I like your work of adding a visual appeal to that one.
Yeah, kidney stones. So, Kamon, you don't usually nickname stuff, right?
No, I do not. I've never been a big nickname guy. I mean, basically it comes down to, if I name one poke Awesome, they all gotta be named Awesome, and if I name them, it's gotta at least make sense for what either they're trying to do or that type of poke. And if I can't accomplish doing it on all of them, then I'm not going to name any of them, and I'm just going to leave them as epic names, such as like top of my head, like Gastrodon, capital G, capital A.
As long as it's not like Stapler the Gastrodon.
Taco Monday.
Slightly off topic, but what about this upcoming team? Are you having nicknames for those?
Not this one.
That's an interesting point. Oh, you can finish, but I have a thought
I was gonna say, if we do make a team together, then I will nickname Pokes, since it is a team effort, and since you guys nickname clearly and I usually don't. So if it's gonna be a team effort, why not at least nickname them?
Now, I guess this will be a long time in the future, but when you make a team on your own, would you consider? You say you either like to have one or not at all. Say you have 6 Pokes that you do have like really good fitting names for, and you're really happy with all those names. Would you name that team and only that team, and not the rest of your Pokes?
I've actually been to a tough choice on that. My actual main team that's done extremely well.
The Gliscor one?
No, that's actually my
Storm
second
Gastrodon.
team. No, it's my Umbreon Crust team actually.
Okay.
I was actually at one point debating on calling it Moonfire just because it's, both the 2 lunar pokes basically, and I mean the Moonlight Poke and the Lunar Poke, and I kind of wanted to almost name that because it's a burn stall premise, burn confusion stall, but at the same time it's one of those. Well, if I name one team, then I kind of have to name them all, and so I'm like really pressed to call it an official name.
I think also it is you are already pretty personalized in your playstyle. Not many other people use Umbreon and Crest these days. It's better than having Azelf, Heatran, Rotom Wash, Shaman, or Celebi, Vaporeon, and Jirachi all named with their capital letter original name. So
no shame in OU horn,
Gia.
So I guess when I say that it's really the best chance you have to personalize yourself, it's not like you aren't personalized if you don't do that. So I don't know. I still think you should nickname stuff, but
hey, you got to remember them custom sets.
All right. I guess let's move on to the top 5. As I mentioned briefly earlier, this time it is top 5 Dragonite counters. I find this really interesting because Dragonite is probably the most versatile offensive poke in OU. I would stand by that because his Dragon Dance set can OHKO just about everything in OU, barring a few counters, which we'll mention, and Steel type, basically. Because Outrage is resisted by one type. His Mixed Knight set can break all of the things who stop him when he's setting up, like Skarm. And his bulky DD set can set up on some weaker sweepers, like if there's a choice Starmie locked into T-Bolt, I guess he can set up on that anyway, or other fairly weak stuff. He can just roost and set up on it all day and make it cry. I think what I'm looking for in these top 5 are, the main thing is ability to counter Mixed Knight to some extent, because that's the most common set I see every day, and that's the set that is really the most immediately threatening, because with Dragon Dance you have a turn to switch into something. With that being said, my number 1 is going to be my Milotic. It's going to live any unboosted hit from Dragonite, and it'll live any Mixed Knight hit, even like a Life Orb Outrage without +1. It can outspeed and OHKO with Ice Beam. I think that's incredibly valuable. It can take 2 of any of Mixed Knight's hits, it can take any other hit, and then it kills it. That's really what a counter's for, because nothing else in the game can take more than 1 of Dragonite's hits reliably. Aside from like locked into Outrage, stuff like that. Number 2, I'm going to have Skarmy. One of the few that resists EQ and Dragon as a combo. it's really the best counter by far to me for a Dragon Dance set, because it's really the only poke in the game, I would say, that can consistently take outrages. It's the only steal that comes to mind with reliable recovery, and if there's another that I'm missing, it doesn't have the defense to do it. It is weak to Fire Blast, obviously, which is pretty common, but it can Whirlwind, it can Brave Bird. Number 3, I'll have Bronzong. Again, it's a great counter for Dragon Dance because it blocks Outrage and EQ. Gyro Ball is great for Dragon Dancers because if it's bulky, it'll take more and more each turn from Gyro Ball, and eventually power's going to get maxed out when Dragon Claw won't be able to do much to Bronzong. Also, my number 4 will be Gastrodon. It can take any unboosted hit except a Choice Banded Outrage, and Life Orb Adamant Max Outrage, I've faced one of those recently, and I had an 8 in 8 chance to live, which is pretty impressive for minimum defense. With special defense, it takes around 60% from max special attack Draco Meteor, and it can Oko Mix Knight with Ice Beam. It'll hurt Bulky Dancer a lot, and Bulky Dancer won't be able to kill it for a couple turns. It can switch off Toxic and Ice Beam until the Dragon Dance Knight either dies or has to kill it. So I really think it's an overall great counter. It can live almost any of its hits, guaranteed, and do some serious damage, if not kill it with Ice Beam. And if it's bulky enough to live, it can Toxic it, or just Ice Beam it twice, and stall it out, essentially. Number 5, I would say Jirachi, but this is no event. This is no event zone.
Event clause, please.
I'm going to go with Metagross. It's bulky enough to live a +1 EQ without Life Orb. It'll obviously eat some outrages, and it'll do the most with Ice Punch of any counter I've named by far, due to its high attack.
You're also forgetting if you invest a little in HP and a little in special defense. I mean just a little. You're going to live Fire Blast guaranteed every time.
Yeah, it does die
comfortably
to Fire Blast, but with some investment you live. If it comes to it, it can explode. Meteor Mash is powerful if you don't have Ice Punch, and if it's left weakened, Bullet Punch is powerful enough to probably do a good fifth, or probably a little less than that, to a pretty bulky Knight. So that would be a great way to finish it off. That rounds out my top 5. Milotic, Skarm, Bronzong, Gastrodon, Metagross.
Alright, so Makar pretty much covered the majority of my top 5, for my top 5 anyway. Number 1 I put just because I love this dude and he takes everything that I can't handle. Dusknoir obviously has the Ice Punch, and the Will-O-Wisp is always nice to get on a Dragon Dancer. Unless it's one of those, Heal Bell and then Dragon Dance Roost. And
if he has Ice Punch and Will-O-Wisp, I would think he can handle Heal Bell Knight for a while on his own.
he can handle that pretty fine too. And, Dusknoir can, wall on both sides of the spectrum, just as Dragonite can attack from both sides, so whatever Dragonite can do theoretically, Dusknoir could also theoretically wall it pretty well. Since that's the only thing I had different from Makar's. I guess we pretty much determined that Melodic is overall better than Gastrodon against Dragonite.
Just because of the speed, though, and the higher special defense.
Yeah, I believe it's got better physical defense too.
Oh, that's true. Well, when you factor
and higher special attack.
When you factor in Gastrodon's higher HP, I think they're pretty close defensively. But...
Yeah, they're close. I think Outrage does maybe like 5% more to Gastrodon. It's not a huge difference. But then I believe also higher special attack.
Yeah, not by much. It's like base 8 base higher.
Yeah, could be enough it's like minorly invested in some defense.
Mm-hmm. So you had Dusknoir and Milotic.
Yeah, and in order I had Dusknoir, Melodic. I bumped Gastrodon up to 3rd just to give it some love, and then I had Zong and Skarm.
This doesn't get enough on this podcast.
No, it does not. I had Zong is 4th and Skarm is 5th, primarily due to fire weakness, whereas the first 3 were not weak to any of its commonly carried moves. I like Metagross, though.
Probably live
Bronzong will take him a lot better, obviously.
Mm-hmm. So, Kamon, you were gonna go over just some checks for us.
Yeah, it's not looking good. I can't think of. I mean, I could think of pokes that can revenge kill.
Well, yeah, I mean
mean,
that's one thing that a check can do is revenge kill and force it out.
But one thing it
I
cannot
mean-
do, at least in our definition, is switch into it and take a hit and then kill it.
Right.
Well, actually, not a lot of pokes can actually switch in, take a hit from Dragonite.
Well,
and kill
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, that's why
I mean,
we
there,
just
there
named
really
names
is
some.
few. It comes down to the set. I mean, there are no, in my honest opinion, there are no hard counters to Dragonite, but there are counters, and there's a lot of checks. But
What would you say the best 5 checks to carry? If you want to run a team and you want to have checks for Dragonite, what are the first
to
ones
be able
you
to
look
deal
at?
with them?
Yeah,
Yeah, just something if he
Well-
gets set up. I need to have some dude
like
descend in
last
to
resort,
make sure he doesn't sweep
you're
me.
not going to get swept
Uh-huh.
by Dragonite.
If it's a wall breaking set, it probably doesn't have EQ. It probably has superpower. So I'd put Tentacruel up there, just because the resistance is going to be able to allow you to take at least one hit, even from extreme speed.
Yeah, it'll
Ice
take
Beam
Draco.
obviously can Oko. Draco Meteor, it'll eat those and say yum for breakfast. Starmie can easily come in and revenge kill on any set that isn't running like, I think like max speed plus DD, which I don't think you ever see, just because of the raw power you can have from Adamant. To be honest, I actually have to put Gastro down as a check myself, to be honest. Just because Gastro, I mean, even though Gastro can take a hit, I'd rather not use him for that unless I have to. And if it's a smart opponent, they could usually go, oh, well, he took this much, but can he live? Oh, he can live. And then they won't attack, they'll switch out and save him for later. So, I mean, I really got to put it, I feel there really is no true counter to Dragonite overall. It just takes a couple pokes that can at least deal with him or take a hit and flush him out to at least effectively deal with him. I mean, I would say his best counter is Stealth Rocks and Force and Switches.
Which is why Skarm's quite good.
Oh, very true. It really comes down to a set, and just for me, I try to think of a poke at what he can do in whole, and when it comes down to me, I can't see any reliable way to deal with him unless you just have a team that at least is just solidly well made and go, hey, he's running this set, well, let's play around him this way.
You know, I suppose I should give a special mention to Roar Vaporeon since we threw some bulky waters in there.
And it can carry Ice Beam with its high special attack, Toxic.
Yeah, matter of fact, I might actually drop Gastron out of my counters and throw Vaporeon in there. Well,
Alright, there you go.
yeah. Gastro can yawn, which is pseudo haze, but
Yeah, but I wouldn't run it. I think Toxic's too viable on him. I mean, he's not one to be O code or 2-hit KO'd very easily. I mean, he has the right typing, the right set of moves, the right amount of HP, defense, etc.
Yet he's NU. We don't need to get into that though.
Tears do not matter.
usage.
Do we have any more comments with that? I'm set with my top 5.
This is probably the only time you're ever going to hear me say I don't think Astro's the guy for the job, unless it's like a physical attacker. This is the time. This is the time you won't hear me say use Gastro.
Yeah, I'll officially change that to Noir Melodic Vaporeon Zong Skarm.
Alright.
I gotta pretty much agree with Nor with Coop on this. He's probably the only true counter. Like counter. That's the end of my list.
I think what I'm going with my Lodic, it's the first thing I'd probably bring into Dragonite if I see it, just because it's the thing
Before
that'll
you
best
see
deal
any of
with
its other
things.
moves,
Yeah, and if it starts Dragon Dancing,
then you know.
pretty much, if you don't have like something to block it, like a Skarm or a Bronzong, you're in deep trouble. So you're gonna
pray
lose
for
it.
no Fire Blast.
And if he is Dragon Dance, my Lodic will lock him into Outrage. So, all right, we'll cut the video here. We'll do Saver's Corner. And we're back. This is the Savers Corner clip. Second time, obviously. It's second episode of the Breeding Grounds. This one is from way back in 2007, and this comes from Kowalski. I'll link the actual video in the description. And here it is.
Okay, so we have a Weevil.
Mm-hmm.
Who Japanese? What?
I love that. Honestly, it would be really good if Weevil got Earthquake, but he doesn't. So
That's not cool. That's not cool at all.
I don't know, would you run that over Brick Break, you think?
Brick Break, yes. I would definitely run it over.
yes, I would. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, that is Ice
Break.
Break, isn't it?
It's only
Yeah.
good for Bliss, and it doesn't even do good for Bliss.
That's better than Low Kick,
Right.
I think, anyway.
It does do better than Low Kick.
Never mind.
Weevil's move pool just
He
bad.
does change it to Aerial Ace, and a few battles later, he uses Aerial Ace on a Infernape. And I think he gets the kill because it's -1 or something. I think that's hilarious, but
K-Wall.
How many more
Okay,
times are we
well.
going to see like a Sav fail with K-Wall? I just have this weird feeling we're going to see it like at least one more in the near future.
yeah, he's got a couple. I can't think of any specific examples off the top of my head, but
I can, but I'm not going to say him.
wink, wink. He definitely has some, so might see more of those in the future. Well, I think we're done here. Thanks for tuning in to the second episode of the Breeding Grounds. I'm certain that the second one will be up before March 20th, just because we've all been active
third one, you
recently
mean?
talking. Yeah, the third one. So, thanks for not counting us out after we kind of had a sabbatical after one episode. With that, Makar out. Alright, he doesn't have an outline.
I'm sorry, I went gun shy completely there. I was just like, whoa, oh crap, I got to say something.
Play us out, Kooper.
One day Kingdom will have an outro. But until then, later days.